Hello, welcome again to Driving in Korea. The videos where I just drive around Korea and talk about what's happening here. Welcome back. I am sure, like the rest of the world, you might be sitting in some type of self-quarantine. Right now I'm just driving just to drive. I've been already in this quarantine I'm on my third week. I'm just in the car. I'm just doing apartment to car just to drive around a bit. We've been very cautious, but I thought I'd do this video to give an update of what's happening in South Korea, how we dealt with it, and are still dealing with it. It's not gone away yet. And maybe some bugbears I've had about how this has been covered, and certain incidents, especially from people, my fellow Americans, some of their behavior, and some European friends. Anyway, so the history of this goes is it started hitting Korea very slowly in mid-February, and I was keeping track of it. And then we had the infamous patient 31, who was a member of the cult sect Shincheonji, and she attended a funeral for the Shincheonji's founder's brother. Now, the founder of Shincheonji considers himself, like most cult leaders, the Messiah, the second coming of Jesus. I don't know how many second comings of Jesus we've had in Korea. I would wonder that well, if your brother's mortal, I guess you are too. Anyway, yeah, I might go into some religious rants in this one too. Put that years of Catholic school and academic Bible study to use. But anyway, so her attending the funeral made it explode down over in Daegu, which is in southeastern Korea, kind of middle southeastern Korea. And it spread there. We didn't close down the borders immediately with China, but we eventually did. Not sure. I mean, it was already out of the bag anyway. It was already in the country. Closing the borders wouldn't have done anything. Well, no, it might have slowed down a little bit, but it's like trying to hold water in your hands. You're not going to keep it all in your hands. Eventually, it's going to drip out a bit. So it exploded and went through all the members of the sect. They interacted with other people in the public down in Daegu, or some of them went back home because they traveled far away for this guy's funeral, and affected other people. And the thing is, we all know, is you don't really show signs of this for a long time. And before you start showing symptoms, it is very contagious. So it just spreads around. And then it just exploded. And that's when the numbers got really big. That's when Korea started getting into the news. And a lot of really negative press about Korea. Very inflated. I see a lot of, I would say, orientalism, which is a version of racism in the press, of making Korea, and China too, is this exotic other. And when you do that, you run into danger. Now, Korea does this too. Korea at first was blaming the Chinese for everything. Of course, it did come from China, but I think wasted a lot of time by just putting all the blame on China, putting all the blame on the government, on the president in particular. And I've seen this happen so many times in Korea, is whenever there is an epidemic, whenever there's a problem, like H1N1, swine flu, bird flu, things like that. I remember the swine flu epidemic, the swine flu thing when it came to Korea, 2008. First thing they did was quarantine foreigners. Not Koreans, foreigners, only foreigners. Back when we did this whole podcast, we actually interviewed some ESL teachers that were in quarantine, and they had all flown together with their Korean co-teachers, Korean co-workers, on the same airplane from outside Korea. When they landed inside Korea, they quarantined the foreign staff, but let the Korean staff go home. Supposedly Koreans magically can't get the swine flu if they've been overseas. But that's the thinking. And the trouble with this thinking, and I saw this too with the Saywall, with all the other, is there's too much pointing, looking for someone to blame. That is not yourself. Because when you start pointing your fingers at others, subconsciously you shirk responsibility from yourself. So if you can blame foreigners, you can blame the president, you can blame a cult for all this, then, my hands are clean. I don't need to worry about anything because it's their fault. I don't have to take any personal responsibility. When we're all in this together, yes, they are to blame too. The president, Moon Jae-in, has some blame, even though did very well in the response, in my opinion. Shin Chun-ji, of course, has a lot to blame in this. But our attacks on them made them go even further into hiding, which made it even harder to track them and find out where they were infecting people. It wasn't that productive. And while at the same time, we're not really doing our own responsibility. We were doing the mask thing. And this is the other problem I've had with Korea is, we've heard of security theater at airports where people go through all the security, but it's just for show. And we're finding out now that they're lifting bans on bottles of hand sanitizer on airplanes, it shows how much bullshit that security theater was in the first place. I mean, what suddenly hand sanitizer is safe to put on an airplane? Yeah, I know. But it's security theater here too, is people think that mask is the only thing that can keep you, is the one thing that can keep you safe. When in fact most of the masks people are wearing are the best they're good for is preventing you from getting others infected if you're already infected. They don't prevent you from getting infected. Even an N95 mask, if not worn properly. Many people not wearing them properly. They're wearing them so that their noses are exposed. They're reusing them. They're wearing the same one for too long. Makes them ineffective, even if they were effective in the first place. So it's just security theater. And this is one bugaboo. One thing really bugs me is when I was going out, is I was wearing the mask. I had hand sanitizer with me. I'm washing my hands everywhere I go. And then when I go to use the men's room, I'm the only one washing my hands. You see all these other guys with masks on, doing their health theater. They go pee and then just walk out. They don't wash their hands or anything. But they wear their masks, so they think they're safe. And so when you're pointing your fingers at others, you think you have no personal responsibility. You have this, what I call an adolescent sense of invincibility. Now, what Korea is good at, and this is not my thinking, I'm stealing this from another Korea commentator who is well respected. Korea is not as good at strategic thinking as it is with tactical thinking. What I mean is this, is not so great at planning ahead for possible worst case scenarios. What we might call the last minute bali culture, where, why didn't you think ahead about this? Everyone panicking to fix something at the last minute. It's like, why didn't you think ahead? Why didn't you plan ahead for this? I mean, from the smallest level, I've worked for so many organizations here where no one plans ahead for anything. But really good at tactical thinking, that after the thing happens, really good at fixing it. One example would be the 2018 Winter Olympics, where Korea had over a decade to prepare for this. I mean, it had been trying for so long to get these Winter Olympics, and then it finally got it. So it's been over a decade in preparing for this, and built a whole rail line for this. Oh, I did sanitize before touching my nose, and I've sanitized the car. And then there was an issue with tickets, with people who had actually, foreigners who'd actually bought tickets to go to the Olympics. People from overseas they bought the tickets for the trains to go see the Olympics. They were getting kicked out of their seats because Koreans were buying those tickets for Lunar New Year, which Lunar New Year was happening during the Olympics. No one thought that was going to happen. No one planned for that to happen. So suddenly, all the trains were taken up, and you had all these Olympic goers who couldn't go to the Olympics because all the trains were taken up for people going to visit their families during Lunar New Year. No one planned ahead for this. So there's this little crisis on their hands, and then Team Korea got into gear and fixed it within 2 days, and everything went smooth. So again, Team Korea, after the explosion in Daegu, went into gear, came up with all these isolation measures, all these procedures. I'm pretty sure Korea invented the whole drive-through clinic thing, which I think is genius. All these genius solutions are coming out of here. There's another way, because doctors are and medical practitioners are always having to wear these hazmat suits all the time. They found a more efficient way for medical professionals to test people. Is they've come up with what looks like a bank teller window with gloves, little holes for gloves to poke through, so they don't have to be in full protection all the time to give tests. They look hilarious, but my God, what a genius solution those are. So we've had genius solutions. Our numbers have steadily been going down. We've been having more I call them cluster fucks. Ever since then, we've had a few clusters. One has been from a call center in southwestern Seoul. I heard a rumor that the origin of this actually lived in my neighborhood. We've had a few people, not many in my neighborhood, have gotten the virus. The neighborhood south of me has, which I'm driving through right now. A few people, we just got messages this morning about the virus. Other things the government's done is tracked everyone publicly. Now, this is the difference between China and Korea. China's not a democracy like Korea is. Korea is a democracy. Someone tell our Surgeon General that. They lumped Korea and China together, South Korea and China together, as authoritarian governments. Yeah, no, I think that guy's information is a little mixed. We're a democracy here, not nearly as authoritarian as China is. So please get that right. This is very much people who are always protesting in the streets. It's a national pastime. You don't see that in China. So what we had was public cooperation and surveillance, public surveillance, which will raise hackles in Western thinking. Now China has government secret surveillance. Korea is public surveillance, as in we know where all the people are. Everyone who has been tested and shows positive, there are all these, between government and private organizations, all these maps showing where people went to. They're going through and they're sanitizing, they're sterilizing these areas. We get text messages all the time. At 9 a.m. woken every morning 9 a.m. Just updates on what's going on. We get text messages of where infected people have been to, so we know not to go there. This has been very effective. The social distancing thing, been very effective. All things were canceled right away. School has been out for weeks. And they might announce it that they're going to be out for 2 more weeks. So it'll be like 5 weeks of no school. We're being very cautious about this, and the numbers have gone down. Yeah, Daegu really was most of the numbers. Seoul, a city of 10 million people, was only getting around 9 new cases per day. So pretty good at coordinating and doing this. Now, it's not gone away. I'm starting to see right now not as many people wearing masks as there were, which might be a good sign, but also might be a dangerous thing to do at this point. As I said, masks don't prevent you from getting it, but could help prevent you from spreading it. And I also wear my mask to keep other people's minds at ease. Especially having a face like this, they don't want to see me unmasked. So it has really gone down. It's really gone down. We're under 100 new cases a day. I haven't checked today's numbers yet. We might have had another surge, and that's the other surge. We had this call center in Western Seoul, and people in that building got infected. That gave us a little bump in the numbers. It might give us still another bump because we haven't gone through the full incubation period yet. And then more church gatherings are causing it. We've had a few of them. One down in Songnam, which is southeastern suburb outside of Seoul, near Bundan. Yeah, that's been frustrating. Is the defiance of religious people from going, especially so-called Christians. And I'm trying to spread come on, guys. Do you see so many people who don't even know their own Bibles? Matthew chapter 5 verse 5 says, you're a hypocrite if you feel you need to pray in public so others can see you. And then at the next one, verse 6, it says, pray in thine own closet, motherfucker. Well, not the last part, but that's I read the Samuel L. Jackson edition of the Bible. It's Jesus himself said right after the Beatitudes, you're a hypocrite if you feel the need to be seen in public praying. If you need to go to church to show face, you're being a hypocrite. Your relationship with God is private. It's between you and God. God prefers you to pray in the closet because that way your heart is pure and you're not doing this for other reasons. There are actually some episodes of The Good Place, which I love that show. It's all about ethics, where you don't really gain points to get into the good place if you know that you're getting the points for nefarious reasons. If you're just doing nice things, or if you're just doing positive things just because you think you're going to get a reward, that's not ethical. There's some episodes of The Good Place that deal with that. And so if some so-called pastor is telling you that you need to show up at church in a gathering, I'd start questioning that pastor. Jesus says so many times in the New Testament talking about Pharisees, charlatans, fakes. It tells you the signs that they're a fake, a Pharisee. And this is one of those signs. This is a good sign that the person who is leading your church is a bit of a fake. And so if they're telling you to go to church when it's really reasonable to stay inside, especially if it is actually violating what Jesus himself said you should do, maybe do a little bit of soul searching and find another place of worship, or go like me and be an So anyway, I don't know where I'm driving to right now. I've just drove in a straight line, and now I'm in some weird street next to a canal. So my complaint about the West is all the sensational coverage. I mean, of course, sensational coverage about this is humongous, but the xenophobic, racist, orientalist coverage we've been seeing. I know of at least 2 articles that came out of frightened English teachers. Frightened, and then they seem to be newbies or barely, I don't know, easily spooked. This isn't a machismo thing. This is just people just being irrational. Is these articles of English teachers that, oh my God, South Korea's soul is so scary right now. There's one in Oklahoma about someone who showed up here for their dream job. Right now, when you say dream job in South Korea teaching, you know they're lying to you in that article. Talking about, oh, they came to Seoul and they were so freaked out they returned. So anyway, they pulled what we call a midnight runner. So they broke their contract and went home because they were scared in Seoul. To go back to where? To go back to America where you don't even have any health insurance? I'd rather be in Korea than to be in America right now. In fact, my family was... they were visiting America for 2 months, and I was so worried about them being stuck there. They got back to Korea right before Delta started reducing the number of flights back to Seoul. So they got here just in time, and I was so scared of what was going to happen. Not if it went to America, when it would go to America, what would happen, because we actually have a good healthcare infrastructure in South Korea. It is not like Medicare for all, but pretty close. It's a hybrid system. Everyone gets a base level of coverage. And then you have upgrades. This is a good system. So you have a mixture of government and private insurance. And it's very efficient. You don't wait in line. You're not waiting forever. Don't forget those stupid myths by people who don't know what they're talking about, who've never experienced this. You're not waiting to see a doctor. You hardly. In fact, it's faster than going to get an oil change at Jiffy Lube to go see a doctor here. The medications are so cheap. They're so cheap that my wife complains if any medicine costs more than $10. It's so efficient. The American healthcare system is just broken on so many levels. It's not just insurance. It's overly privatized hospitals, too many middlemen. There's something called this ledger thing that tells hospitals what they're supposed to charge for all these things, and they're way overpriced. It's about as bad as that guy in Chattanooga hoarding all the hand sanitizer and tissues. Except when you're in a hospital, people criticize that guy for hoarding everything and overcharging, but it's okay for a hospital to be overcharging and being the only source people can have for healthcare within their insurance network, if they even have insurance. I used to work for Blue Cross Blue Shield. You know what my job was at Blue Cross Blue Shield? Well, after my initial job, one of my jobs was as a technical writer to write those scripts for the people on the phone to find all the loopholes of how they could deny you coverage. On the other hand, there's a time in college I was extremely poor, and I was on Medicaid. Well, actually, my wife at the time was on Medicaid. And the hospital administrators loved it that they breathed a sigh of relief that we were on Medicaid, because the government insurance had less red tape than the private insurance. It was much easier to process. Go figure. And that's like the biggest complaints people have against public health care is like, oh my God, all the red tape the government has. No. I've been inside the big corporations. I've been inside an insurance, medical insurance. I've been inside a defense contractor, and oh my God. And I've worked for the government. I worked for the governor of New York back when it was a Republican governor. The government was run way more smoothly with less bureaucracy and red tape than the private companies were. I think I'm going to go this way. Anyway, oh my God, I'm going off on so many tangential rants. But the healthcare in Korea is top notch. That person went back to Oklahoma. Sorry, sweetie. You missed out. Korea is one of the safest places to be during this. Our death rates are extremely low. Why? Because we've been so aggressive in testing. Another thing that we did right is we tested a lot, and it's free if you have the virus. If you don't have the virus, it's just $100. And so we heavy testing, so we actually know the numbers. Another thing, transparency. We actually know what we're dealing with, which relieves the fear. Transparency is light. We're turning on the lights so we can see the monsters. We can see the rats. We can see the snakes. But if you're in the dark and you're surrounded by monsters, rats, and snakes, of course you're going to be in fear. You're going to do something irrational like hoard toilet paper, which all of us in Asia are like saying, what the hell is wrong with you people hoarding toilet paper? But again, people are misdirected. People don't, again, they're looking at the wrong thing. Their fear, their emotion is taking control, and they're directing their overreaction at the wrong thing. Your overreaction should be, no, do social distancing, wash your hands thoroughly, sanitize. If you try to stay apart from people, wear a mask just to protect others. Also think about others. Okay, if you're young, if you get it, you may not get the symptoms, or you may get it, but care about that you might spread it to someone who is vulnerable, who might have a heart condition, might have been recovering from leukemia, could be elderly. And also, if you do survive, have you seen the pictures? Have you seen the descriptions of what happens to you if you've gone through this? Your lungs, many people, their lungs turn into honeycomb. Yeah, they survive, but they will not be able to breathe normally for the rest of their lives. They're going to be acting like Walter White on the last bit of his lung cancer right before he died. You're going to be like that for the rest of your life. Do you really want to risk that? So right now, health system here is great. I was kind of pissed about these articles coming about, just painting Korea as this scary place, orientalist, the exotic, oh my God, what are they doing over there? When it would have been nice if they balanced it with articles from those of us on the inside, like me, saying on the ground, realistically, how things are. You can see how things are right now. It's pretty busy right now. We are right now, we did panic for a bit. Instant noodles started disappearing from the shelves, but it was restocked. A lot of restaurants are depending on delivery, and that's good. Ways to support your restaurants, man. Some of them are doing delivery. My brother's restaurant in Houston, BOH Pasta, they're doing delivery right now to survive. Buy gift certificates. Yeah, my tour business has pretty much collapsed. But I have enough padding to hopefully weather this. Boy. Anyway, it would be nice if the media would have accepted articles or interviewed some of us who are actually in Korea, rather than some of the, I don't want to use hysterical because that has some gender baggage related to it, but really shrill coverage from panicked people who should not have been taken seriously. But I've seen this before. I've seen this when North Korea acts up. The news is more likely to cover people who are panicking than the people who have level heads. And usually the people who are panicking who are in the news are people who've barely even spent time in Korea, barely even been here, and don't even know how it really is. So that's why I felt this need to make this video. Give you an idea of what it's really like in here. So any Americans, any people outside Korea, especially in the West, not especially, anyone who's going through this right now, recommendations from how we've dealt with it in South Korea. What you can do personally, first, take personal responsibility. That's the first thing to do. I mean, I love how libertarians keep harping on about personal responsibility and then shirk it whenever, personal responsibility is needed, because you have personal responsibility and social responsibility. If you're not Mountain Man Jim living in a cabin in the woods, you do have social responsibility too. There are people around us that we depend on. We are all interdependent, and we need to take care of each other. But you take care of yourself first. I mean, it's just like they say in the airplanes before you take off. When the mask popped down, put your own mask on before putting it on a child. Same thing too. Make sure that you're okay, and then take care of everyone. But take care of everyone. Try to do what you can to support the small businesses if you can. As David Chang said, restaurants and other businesses, their small businesses are too small to fail. I'm getting a little nervous about our personal economic situation. We'll see. I'm not there yet, but I'm planning ahead. Keep track of what we're doing. I mean, Dark Side of Soul, we're thinking of. We're coming up with other ways of keeping the business going other than doing physical tours. So go on our Dark Side of Soul Facebook page. Sean is doing great. Live watch parties. They're kind of fun. You just sit there, grab your popcorn and pizza, and watch a horror movie together with other people in the chat room. That's really fun. We're thinking of other things to do. We're putting together maybe a podcast, Patreon to help keep us afloat, if you're interested. But I also want you to just note that what we've done here in South Korea: social distancing, wash hands, sanitize. If you can, wear a mask when you're out in public, just to protect others. Protect and follow proper mask hygiene. Make sure the nose is covered. Also, fuck your racism. Don't blame Asians for this. Stupid shit like that. Just don't. Incidents. I mean, that's the big bout of dumb right there. Is what one guy assaulted an Asian woman because she was wearing a mask, and then another person assaulted another Asian person because they weren't wearing a mask. This is not an excuse for your base tendencies. I mean, we had a little bit of that in Korea at first as well. Mild. I mean, we've had some restaurants put up signs saying no foreigners. Some friends of mine, we went to a barbecue restaurant at Mahjong Market, and they drilled us about where we had been, making sure that we didn't come from out of the country or anything like that, even though I'm sure they weren't drilling other Korean patrons the same way. They let us in. We had a good time. Actually sat next to a group of real life gangsters. That was kind of cool. Joe, how do you know they were gangsters? Well, I don't know many upper middle-aged men with full middle-aged Korean men with full back tattoos. So I'm assuming they were gangsters. Safe assumption. Love it. Love this country. We're doing fine here. Yeah, really try to self-quarantine as much as possible. Telecommute as much as you can. Encourage your government as just transparency. There are things that are outside of maybe people's control, or maybe just contact your Congress people, or contact your government. Because right now it looks like it's the local governments that are left to fend for themselves. The national government, the federal government in America is not doing that much. It's kind of laissez-faire. Trump just basically told the governors today that they're on their own, and getting equipment, respirators. Yeah, this is something to be concerned about. Yeah, not something to panic about. It's something to be concerned about. This is not some plot to make Trump lose the election, which is the dumbest thing anyone can think of. You think China and Italy, they all went into shutdown mode to upset Trump's election, that Iran is doing mass burial sites to upset Trump's election, that we're going through this to upset Trump's election. This shows how self-absorbed America really is, not aware of the rest of the world. And that's also helped America get caught off guard by this. It's so much looking at its belly button that did not see the freight train that was coming their direction. Yeah, this isn't a conspiracy. This is something to really be concerned about, but not panicked about. But yeah, reality. Italy is preparing. Italy's preparing to make hard ethical decisions. They're not making them yet, but some guidelines have been proposed of giving doctors ethical decisions of who they have to turn away at the hospital and who to try to save. They're not making those decisions yet, but they're preparing for that case. They're preparing. They're talking. It's wartime triage. If other countries are preparing for wartime triage, this isn't a time to be blasé. If you're going to be blasé, then it does happen, don't say you were caught by surprise. Please. Do us a favor and don't be that dumb. Just be prepared. Practice safe health. Be prepared for self-quarantine. 3 weeks. You can order food, you can order online, even though they're getting strained right now, but do what you can. Do what you can to stay at home and still support the economy. Thank goodness we do live in a time where you can still be a part of the economy while at home. You couldn't have done this 20 years ago. But now you can order most anything you need online. You can do it. You can do as much work as you can from online. If you're a boss, if there's a way your employees can do things from home, come up with a system so that they can telecommute. We're all in this together. This is a global economy. This is a local economy. What you do affects others. We don't make money through magic lamps and genies. It comes from other places. It comes from other people's work. It comes from other people's resources. We work together. Let's find ways that we can work together. Oh my goodness. I got a lot out of my system. I'm sure there's a lot more I have to say. But for now, I'm sure you're really tired of hearing this guy talk. But this is kind of how it is in South Korea. We're getting much, much better. Hopefully we're almost safe. We're not out of the woods yet. Not out of the woods. Now that Shincheonji has mostly been taken care of, now we're seeing what it really is here. And what the base level is in the general public. Let's hope it goes well. But it's getting better, and please, people take note of what South Korea has done. Try to follow it. Transparency, an efficient, robust health system. Make sure people can go get tested. One of my friends, young friends, who was in Korea, she's now back in America. Her doctor is pretty sure she has the virus, but they won't let her get tested because she hasn't been overseas lately. This is the stupidity. People don't even know who is infected. The numbers are wrong in America right now. And she doesn't have insurance. So getting tested, she won't be able to afford it anyway. And she's not alone. Many people in America are that way because of that broken healthcare system. It's much safer to be in Korea than in America right now. I'm really glad I'm here. I feel really nervous about you guys. Anyway, really worried about everyone. Yeah, I mean, this is not going to be an apocalypse, and the panic is causing a lot of problems too. But also don't be blasé about it. Be smart. Take the proper precautions. Don't be an idiot. Alright, 안녕. 안녕히 계세요.